Hello guys, how are you all? I hope you are doing well. I'm Natalia Bliss, a singer, pianist, and vocal technique teacher, and today I'll tell you why you are not hitting the high notes correctly. Instead of
Hey!
singing the high notes with power is perhaps one of the most challenging aspects of vocal technique, and it's crucial to know how to do it correctly, because otherwise, it's very easy to harm yourself while attempting to sing those high notes forcefully. So, you sing the high notes incorrectly if you experience the following. Your throat hurts after or during singing the high notes. Singing high chest notes should not be physically strenuous. You shouldn't exert excessive effort. Instead, it's more about control. You must be able to balance various components of your body and vocal technique to do it right. If you're cracking when hitting the high notes, it's another sign that you're doing it wrong, indicating that you're pushing your voice too hard and don't have control over your chest and head registers. If you find that you can only reach high notes using your head voice and can't sing these notes with your chest voice, it's a sign that you don't have good control over your passaggio, or that you lack sufficient control of your chest register. You run out of breath when singing high notes or phrases. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Click the red subscribe button and also the bell icon to stay updated with my new videos. I'll tell you the truth, if you genuinely want to achieve those powerful and stable high notes, you have to invest your time in learning vocal technique. Here's my beginner singing course playlist with 30 videos, which will help you understand what vocal technique involves, what components you need to control, and it's absolutely free. Here's the playlist for you. Singing high notes well requires control and a good balance of all its components. Let's start from the beginning. Breath. Breath is the foundation of your entire vocal technique. I know not many people want to spend their time on the topic of breath control, but I assure you it's the most important aspect. It's like building a house on a foundation of cardboard. It won't be able to support much weight. In contrast, a solid foundation is the basis for your good vocal technique. You need to use diaphragmatic breathing for singing, and you also have to support your voice correctly. You shouldn't be tense, but your abdomen shouldn't be completely relaxed either. If you still don't know what diaphragmatic breathing is, here's my video on it.
Vocal breaks. How to solve this problem? Vocal breaks typically occur in the passaggio area, right when we transition from our chest register to our head register. Before anything else, you should also know that you can sing high notes with power using two different techniques. You can sing them with the mixed voice technique. In this case, you'll use your head register but in a supported, more projected, and more powerful way. If you're not familiar with what a mixed voice is, I've included my video here. Alternatively, you can sing high notes with power using the belting technique. But in both cases, you need to have good control over your passaggio, that transitional zone between your chest and head registers. That's where vocal breaks happen, especially when we're pushing our voice too hard. There's also a psychological aspect to this. You have to let go of the idea that as you go higher in the high notes, you have to push harder and use more force. That's not the case. You have to calm down instead. That's why it's so important that you practice passaggio exercises, so you can smoothly transition from your chest voice to head voice without thinking. Try to relax as much as possible, and experiment with starting a note in head voice and then descending to chest voice in a very relaxed manner. Or vice versa, starting with your chest register and moving towards your head note. However, if you're going to sing forcefully and squeeze your vocal cords, especially when singing in chest voice, that's when you're likely to experience a vocal break. So, you shouldn't do, and that's when you'll hear this vocal break. So, invest some time in practicing Passaggio exercises. Here are the Passaggio exercises for men, and you can also find a video with Passaggio exercises for women right here.
The larynx. Lack of control over your larynx can cause you many problems when singing high notes. The larynx cannot remain in the same position when we are singing low notes, mid-range notes, and high notes. It changes. In low notes, the larynx is in a low neutral position. But when singing high notes, it's inevitable that the larynx will rise. The most important thing is to keep your larynx in a floating position, as relaxed and neutral as possible, without letting it rise too much, which could strangle your voice. Nor should you keep your larynx in a very low position, as that can create tension. If you still don't know how to control your larynx, here's my video. Try singing different low and high notes while placing your finger here, and you will see how the position of your larynx changes. It's low for low notes. And now see what happens when you go higher, it's up. When you go higher, it's up. The most important thing is to maintain enough space within your throat. How can you feel this space? Try to surprise yourself. Or try to breathe like dogs do, even if it seems ridiculous. You'll notice that your throat is open, and the air can flow freely there. This sensation of a relaxed opening is precisely what we need. You can also achieve it with the sensation of something warm in your mouth, or the feeling of a startle. In all these cases, your larynx will slightly lower, your palate will lift slightly, creating enough space for your voice to resonate there. Conversely, if you don't create this space, you'll always feel constricted, with little room in your throat, and you might even experience vocal breaks. I really like the exercise of pretending to be surprised. This works well for reaching high notes while maintaining the sensation of low notes. And you have to trick yourself a little.
Me sorprendo. En vez de hacerlo así.
Instead of doing it like this, and closing my throat, I'm simply surprising myself and maintaining this startle, this surprise. It also helps me deceive myself, thinking that each time I'm going lower. And finally, when you've mastered your breath control, when you know how to support your voice correctly, when you've thoroughly understood vocal openness, when you can create enough space, when your larynx doesn't rise excessively, and when you've mastered your passaggio, that's when you can move on to the topic of resonators. Singing high notes with power means singing in a projected manner. When we say projected, we mean that the voice is in the mask. We have the nasal resonator and the frontal resonator, and right there is where you should feel your voice. You shouldn't feel your voice pushed from the throat. When the throat is closed and your voice resonates throughout the throat, this sensation is somewhat similar to a baby's cry. In fact, we use this technique as infants to sound very powerful. All babies know how to cry very loudly, and it's because nature is clever. It's the most effective way to sound powerful without harming ourselves. We project our voice into the resonators. So when I teach my students exercises for resonator projection, I often use crying exercises because they are very effective. And even though it may seem ridiculous, even though it may seem exaggerated, exaggerating these exercises, in this case, is good because it will give you the correct sensation of voice projection. Then, you can balance this sound, and instead of sounding so childish, your voice can sound more balanced. In summary, to learn how to sing high notes with power, you should follow these steps. First, do vocal warm-ups according to your vocal range. You should already know if you're a man, whether you're a bass, baritone, or tenor, or if you're a woman, it could be contralto, mezzo-soprano, or soprano. Then, practice vocal warm-up exercises daily or every other day without straining your voice, always with the sensation of being relaxed. Most importantly, focus on breathing exercises, passaggio, chest register, head register, and ensure you have enough vocal openness when singing high notes. Pay very close attention to the topic of resonators and voice projection, as I mentioned. Singing high notes well is a challenging task, which is why people applaud when someone does it well. Be patient, don't stop, keep working, and you will see results quite soon. Pay close attention to the issue of constrictions. Tensions can accumulate, especially in the areas of the jaw and neck. If you feel like you're holding your sound with your jaw or neck and it later causes discomfort, that means you're doing it wrong. That's why you should start vocalizing in front of the mirror, carefully observing how you open your mouth and making sure your jaw is relaxed and your neck is relaxed. If you haven't seen my video on tensions yet, here it is. I hope you liked my video. Keep practicing and continue improving your vocal technique.